Tonight, we continue the class discussing the two levels within the enormous joy we feel as we serve God. My joy in my accomplishment, in fulfilling the reason for my existence, and an even more powerful joy when I think about the joy God has in what I'm doing. So we're now going to very smoothly transition into the next phrase, which is focusing on the enormous joy we have from this belief in God, from internalizing, from integrating my belief that all there is God and there's nothing but God, was, is, and will be, everything, Him. Now, this joy we're feeling is a doubled joy, which means we got 4 levels going on here. Simcha kifula, a double joy, like it's so intense. Umichupeles, and then the mem makes it grammatically even more intense, and even more intense double joy. Now, what do I've got? These 4 levels of joy going on. Milvad simchas hanefesh hamaskelos bekiras havaya v'diraso ito imo. I have an enormous joy going on because I'm flying, because I'm feeling so good, because I'm fulfilling the purpose of creation, because I know what the purpose is, and I'm doing it by integrating my belief in God, and all there is God, and there's nothing but God, and the oneness of God, and somehow these concepts that are completely beyond a human being's understanding, I'm getting, because intuitively I knew them before I ever heard about them. So feeling all that gives me such an intense joy. It's like a double joy. It's not a regular joy. It's like a double dose of joy. But that's only my joy. There's something bigger going on. What else is going on? You have another reason to be so doubled over with joy. When I think about God's joy. When I think of the nachas that God is now having, the emunazu, because of my belief in Him. In other words, the Rebbe says, and of course, this is the 12th of the 12 verses, and it's actually going to be the last thought in this chapter, but we're already beginning it now. We're going to take a while to develop it. The Rebbe has a lot of details fleshing out this idea, but the core concept here is, however great I feel, right? I feel great. Why do I feel great? Because I'm doing something amazing, because I'm doing something impossible, because it's such an unbelievable achievement. A stretch makes you feel great. Achievement makes you feel great. Doing something impossible makes you feel great. Doing the purpose of creation makes you feel really, really great. So that's your double joy. But now get past yourself. Now think how God feels. Now think how God is experiencing what you're doing and what this is doing for Him. My joy in God's joy is far greater than any of my joy in my accomplishment and purpose of creation. I'm understanding the joy God's having. Now, this idea of my joy in God's joy and thinking of God's joy is something that it should be part of our repertoire. It should be part of how we think and live our lives, because it doesn't only apply in this moment, in this specific example that's of course very significant that the chapter is focusing on. It applies in general. Let me phrase it differently. Who here has had this experience that they've done something and they feel like, oh wow, I think I made God happy today? Goldie, who's my only face I see, but maybe I don't see all the faces. I see a lot of screens. Anyone else? Raise your virtual hand. An experience when you've felt, could have happened once, could have happened many times, the sense of like you did something and you're like, I think I made God happy today. I think that action made God happy. I don't believe
I feel when I make another human being happy, it's a reflection of making God happy. I don't know.
So we all have the whys, but I'm saying when you do that, when you helped another Jew, another human being, you're saying another human being, when you helped another human being, you're feeling God's happiness that His child is being taken care of. that someone's helping his child. And that makes you feel very good. It's a wonderful feeling. It could be, as from a saying, not that it has to be the hardest thing in the world, just, this makes God happy. Or it could be a really big stretch and God's really proud of you, really happy you did that. It was big, it was hard, you did it for him. Or it could be something that just, touches him, like helping another person. Helping a person that's sometimes difficult to help. Not an easy person who's so sweet and nice and responsive, the other people. It's a wonderful feeling. And I think it's something good for us to think about. And the Rebbe's saying, like, it's not like, oh, I need to think that God's happy to motivate my service. The Rebbe's talking about this. The Rebbe's going to spend another page talking about this. Yes. We should really focus and be aware of that dynamic, that what we're doing, it's not like in this little bubble. It's not like for checks on our chart. It's not like for even obviously there's big things going on like Mashiach, but there's what we're doing, God is receiving, and it's very meaningful to him. And if it's difficult for us, it's very meaningful to him. And if it's something he wants done, and as from saying, it doesn't even have to be the hardest thing. It's just, God says, you helped my child, you helped my creation. I really appreciate that. I have a lot of nachas. And when we think that God has nachas for what we're doing, it makes us feel very, 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 very good. And it's a great motivation to keep doing more, because we're feeling God's joy in what we're doing. Anyone has something specific they remember that they did, that they really felt that it was very significant to them?
Hi, this is Chava. Hello?
Yeah, Chava, let's hear.
I don't feel this often, but maybe recently I did something and it crossed my mind that Hashem is happy. So first time I decided to make lots of dough, like 15 cups of flour to make challahs, so I can separate challah first time. And I guess that gave me a little bit like a thought that Hashem must be happy.
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was.
It was very difficult for me.
I know.
So it wasn't something.
So I think one,
easy.
Because you knew you were doing something very difficult. And two, because it was the first time you did it. All first time is like breaking through barriers. So this was like the first time of doing something that was a real effort for you. And something that God really wants. And it's like, wow, God must be really happy looking at me down here in my mess of a kitchen right now, full of flour, because this is his will and I'm doing it. Anyone else has an experience? Goldie, let's hear.
So I'm not so fancy, but I always thought that when I was taking care of my kids and I had a good attitude and I gave them a good attitude as well. And I thought this surely gives the Eibishter nachas from me. And I think that it's true, because now when I see my own children are good to their children, and I see that, I have so much nachas. I'm like, I feel like so happy and joyful. And I'm like, well, the Eibishter is also my parent, so he's looking at me as his child. If I'm good to his, to my own children, then he has nachas from this. And in the same way that I have nachas from seeing my child treat his children very well.
Beautiful. That's a great way to think of that mirror. As I look at my children and as I have nachas from what they're doing, and exactly. And that's us. That's God, and that's us. And we're the children. And God's looking at us. And God has nachas. And when we think of that nachas, it's a great source of joy. Remember, this chapter started off with a person who was not feeling it. And the Rebbe said, think about God and you'll feel it. think about the unity of God and you'll feel it. And now we're saying, think about God's joy in what you're accomplishing and you'll feel it. And it's accessible for all of us. And it's not only when we integrate the unity, our belief in the unity of God, even though it's very, very joyous to integrate our belief in the unity of God. But everything we're doing that for whatever reason, using Goldie's ideas, using Chava's idea, using Firma's idea, for each person, whatever triggers inside of them this sense of like, God's really happy now. God's looking at me and having joy, having nachas, having pride, loving what I'm doing, knowing that I'm pushing for him, and that makes him feel good. Just like we as parents, exactly as Goldie said, when we as parents look at our children and we know what they're doing and we know when it is and is not natural for them to do it, and we know when they're prioritizing our values and therefore doing what they're doing and how that makes us feel. Pale reflection, the joy God has in what we're doing. And the Rebbe says, focus on that, and that's going to give you more joy than everything we're talking about until now. Until now, we said, wow, the accomplishment, the purpose of creation. I'm fulfilling the purpose of my existence. That's amazing. I'm fulfilling the purpose of creation. That's like beyond. And now we're saying, and more intense than that is me thinking how much joy God has in what I'm doing. And that will give me even more joy. So continuing, and as I said, we're going to develop this concept more over the rest of this chapter. This Gafia Sitra Achra Mamish. Why is God so happy? Because what I'm doing is really significant to him. I'm crushing the evil, literally. I'm transforming darkness to light. The darkness of the evils in this coarse reality, we could just say this physical world, we're saying no, we're going to the depths of it, the coarseness of it. That the darknesses here are darkening, are concealing the light of God. Ades Kates. Until the end of time. Kimosha Kasev, as is written, Kates Sam Lachosha. An end God placed for darkness. Meaning, of course, the Rebbe is saying that we know there's an end. We know there's going to be the, thank God, ultimate end point, the reality of Mashiach, and we understand that what we're doing is all part of bringing that reality. But at this moment, the Rebbe is saying, even though there's going to be an end, and it has an end, and don't think it doesn't, when is this going to... Kate Sam Lachosha, God says, don't worry. It's in my good, capable hands. But at this moment, the darkness is real. Even though it's not. But it is. And therefore, when you crush it, that's a real accomplishment for God. It's a real gift for God. And it's a real joy for God. And it could be, as the examples, like from and Goldie's example, it could be in the small actions of our daily life. Having patience with our children or spouse. Crushing the impatience inside ourselves. That crushing of that evil is crushing evil. And God says, I appreciate that. That's why you're in this world. Thank you for achieving your purpose. Thank you for the gift you're giving me right now. Kate Sam Lachosha. There's going to be an end. But at this moment, even if we're a second before that end, every crushing and transformation of darkness is so appreciated by God. Now, what do we mean here? Kates Sam Lachosha, an end he placed to darkness. Dahainu, meaning to say, Kates Hayamin. So Kates is one of those interesting words in Hebrew. Hebrew is an interesting language. I don't know, maybe Goldie would know the English. We have this as well, where the word means itself and its inverse. So Kates is one of those words that means itself and its opposite. Kates means the end. Kates also means the inverse of the end, which means Kates means the beginning.